Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and we are once again doing an impromptu recording on a different day at a different time. And these sometimes can be the absolute best ones because we're really, truly fully in the moment of whatever crap is
Definitely.
going on. Sometimes,
Definitely.
we plan things, but most of the time it's just whatever, we show up.
Yep.
And so that's what we're doing right here. And let me start with our quote and we'll jump right in. So the quote is: "The world is so much bigger than your brain. Stop living inside your head." And that's anonymous. So, and we were thinking, or I was sharing with Tia how I feel like for the last 2 months, I have been living from the neck up. And, you hear people talk about that a lot, right?
Right.
In the wisdom world, just you're living in your head, you're living from the neck up. Tara Brach is one who talks about it all the time. She talks about, well, she also says, if you're below the line or above the line
Mm-hmm.
of consciousness,
Yep.
which to me is sort of the same, because if you're in your head and you're just unconscious and just going in the head, you're doing,
Yep.
you're above the line. But when you can go below the line and below the neck, meaning then you tap in to your body and tap into your heart, then you're connecting. Or I've also heard the saying, take the elevator
Right.
from your head to your
To your
heart.
Right.
And I noticed that for the last couple of months, I really have been stuck up there in the head and I have not gotten on the elevator. I have not checked in with my heart in a while. And then until I got to today, boom, crash. Like something will happen. I had to check in with my heart.
Right.
And boy, there was a lot of like pain underneath there. And I think it was like a compilation of a lot of things that were happening, just even little moments of where something may have been said with my son or my daughter, where I sometimes silenced myself and kept my voice quiet and didn't speak up. And like that will build up, that sedimentation, that those layers of not speaking up and saying what's in my heart will stay stored in my body, and it will build up until finally, or like the teapot, boiling until it overflows.
Right.
And that is what happened today. So I needed to do a lot of extra checking in with my heart today, a lot of tending to my heart and my spirit. And so what about you, Tia? Do you notice where that happens sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, you said it so beautifully. I notice when I used to be in my head so much, right? I used to be an engineer. Engineers are analytical and we love our staying up in our head and not thinking about anything else, so I had learned over my lifetime to disconnect from that part of me, and so being in your head, you have that false sense of control and you can manipulate.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, look at data, right? They look at studies, you can manipulate the study however you want based on who's funding it or what the outcome they want. So when we're living, at least when I'm living from my head, I can create however I want that scenario to be because I can justify it with the analytical part of my brain.
Yep.
Without dropping into my heart. And as I've gone and evolved and all that, I'm much more in touch with my heart. But I think as humans, there's more safety living in our head because it's the illusion of being less painful because we can override the feelings. And so when we drop into our heart, it can be very difficult to look at and feel. And also with our heart, not just feelings, it's like the spirit part too. We talk about,
yes,
it's all of that. So body, mind, spirit, body, mind, heart. But we've been taught, many of us, to disconnect from those uncomfortable feelings. Happiness, boy, we can feel that in our heart really easily. But when there's challenging situations, if we stay in our head, it's that false sense of safety. And often when we're in our head, we're also disconnected from our bodies. So our bodies are still there. It's just that if we're cut off at the neck, we aren't willing to tap in and listen and hear those whispers. So my default will be to go to my brain just because that's the conditioning that I had. But it's the balance. And I think what I've learned over time, and it's still a practice, of course, like I can toe tap into my heart, come back to my brain, and then stay in my heart a little longer. So it can be a gentler process. It doesn't mean we have to, rip the tablecloth off at our neck and drop right into our heart and like all of a sudden we're overwhelmed. So we can also be gentle with ourselves. And I know you shared your process, like you were gentle with yourself tapping into your heart today. It wasn't like, I got to go all in and suffer. Because I think some people have that illusion that if we go into our emotions, we're going to suffer versus, oh, I can be there. Okay, now I need a break. Tap into my body. What am I thinking? What am I, all of that. And I'd love to hear your perspective too, just because you love the brain so much and you really understand all the intricacies of the brain. So is that one reason why you think you've been stuck in your brain? Was it avoidance of feeling or avoidance of reality? And like, oh, but the brain is so cool. And there's the subconscious and this. And so you can like you make it
analytically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just said it too, though. Like when we're in our brains, we have that illusion, that sense of being in control. So that's part of it too. But yes, so even like with Marissa Peer, when I was studying and learning the hypnosis, one of the rules of the mind is that the mind wants to avoid pain and move toward pleasure. So whether that's physical pain or emotional pain, the mind sees it the same. Mm-hmm. So if there's emotional pain underneath the surface, our mind is going to try to keep moving away from it, staying distracted. That's just a tool. It's like, okay, what can I do to feel better? What can I do to feel good? I can sense that it's there.
Right.
And so how can I move away from it? But again, you and I are always talking about the mind, body, spirit connection. Mm-hmm. And as Gabor Mate wrote in the title of his book, The Body Keeps the Score. Right. Like just because you're cutting off and you're distracting or disassociating your body saying, hello, no, like I'm still have that in my cells. I still have that pain there. It's not in the ethos. You need to pay attention to me.
Exactly.
Or I'm going to make you pay the price.
Correct.
And it can be, with physical illness a lot of times.
Right. And I think too, I don't know. I mean, I see this a lot in society and like some messaging that's out there. I'm sure you've seen it with clients or other people who have been on the awakening path for a while. We can bypass our heart and our body, and we can wisdomize in our brain that we're being conscious. And so we can convince ourselves, I understand all of this wisdom analytically, and I can justify and figure it out. And I'm accepting of the as is, and I'm doing all of this. But if we're still disconnected from our heart, we are not fully doing the actual work of awakening in body, mind, and spirit. And that's hard to accept at times.
Oh, totally. And I know that I was doing that in the last 2 weeks or 2 months. Sorry. I know that like something would come up in the moment and I would, like you said, I would justify it, or the wisdom would come into my mind. And then whatever situation or trigger there was, I would use that piece of wisdom that came in, which I'm grateful to have it. Like,
it's important.
It's important.
Right.
So the tools, the lessons, the teachings will come into my mind, and it's a way of approaching and handling the trigger. But there were definitely times where I did not check in and go take the elevator down from my head down to my heart and check in with that as well. And so did that bypassing pile up. Right. And that's part of why, like today, it was like this big, like, okay, no more. You're going to deal with the heart
now.
You can't avoid me anymore. You need to pay attention to me. You need to tend to me.
Yeah.
So I 100% understand that bypassing. Mm-hmm. And also we have talked before in other podcasts, you don't want to get too stuck in the heart either. And you just mentioned that.
Exactly.
Like, it's all about balance. It's always about balancing the heart, the mind, and the body. And that's how we're, becoming more whole.
Exactly. Because it's about accepting and honoring all of our parts, right? And if we're ignoring our heart so much because it's so painful, we're not accepting that piece of us. And how can we move forward to another layer until we start to have that acceptance of all of ourselves, including that deep pain, or realizing like, oh, I opened the lid into my heart and there's this pain, and I just realized that I'm part of the co-creation of this pain. Because it's not always, we want it to be the other, but we have to investigate within.
Hard pill to swallow.
Oh, very.
To take responsibility for that.
Definitely.
Because at the end of the day, and this is something else I was thinking about too, there were so many times throughout the day, like that I was thinking, oh, I either wanted someone or needed someone to come, like almost like my mom. Like I wanted my mom to come and just take the pain away. And then, so here's where we can deconstruct this a little bit. So then I would say, but the wisdom would say rather, and this is what popped into my head, that I only have myself, right? At the end of the day, it's a solo journey, right? The hero's journey is a solo journey.
Right.
And yet you and I talk all the time about the importance of community and Sangha and reaching out.
Yes.
So that's a balance too, right? So that's a balance. Like
exactly.
Everything. It always comes back to balance, balance, balance all the time.
And when we say balance, I think it's really important. I just realized.
No, go ahead.
Is that it's not like we're looking for this perfect balance. There's no such thing we're just using the word balance as a generality.
Yes.
And so recognizing that balance doesn't necessarily mean everything is perfect, and that's not what we're looking for.
No.
Meaning it's, hey, I've been in my head a lot. I need to touch in and tap in to my heart. I've been really solo isolating, doing all this inner work. Now I need to connect with others and have the community. Or I've been in community so much and I've been avoiding my own inner journey because it's too painful or whatever. I really want to invest in everyone else, but not look at myself. So I think it's a reminder at least when I think of balance, it's a reminder. It's just a reminder to look at all the parts.
Because the natural way of life is like the ebb and flow of the ocean, the ebb and flow of our breath. Think of a pendulum back and forth, back and forth. It's right. It doesn't ever really stop like right in the middle. It's just, you're just going back to one end. Oh, okay. I've been in my head too much. Now I need to swing the pendulum, come back over into the heart. Then you might go there. Or like you said, even doing too much versus not, or community or not enough. My daughter's been going through that at school, where last year with COVID, when they had all these rules and restrictions in the dorm, she was very isolated, wasn't allowed to be with others. That was too much isolation.
Right.
Now this year, things are open and she has her apartment, and she's been spending too much time with others. And so she's noticing, now I need a little break and I need to come back to just me.
Right. And so, but we also need to have those experiences of those extremes.
Yes.
Right. Because if we don't experience the extreme, how do we know and have that contrast of the other, or understand like, ooh, last time I went so into the, like, I was doing and doing with all these other people. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, wait, I haven't spent time, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't experience. So nothing is wrong, I guess.
Right.
So when we say balance, it doesn't mean it's wrong if we're in our head. That's just where we get stuck. So you were there for a while, but now you had that opening to say like, hey, don't forget about your heart. And you listen instead of, maybe 25 years ago, you wouldn't have even noticed that nudge.
Exactly.
You would have just been going along in your head because that's the safety control area.
100%. Yeah.
But you got the nudge, and because you had the contrast and the beauty and the pause and the wisdom to take that moment and drop.
Yeah.
Look at the beauty that unfolds. because you
100%.
you took the courageous step to tap into your heart.
And I like what you said about nothing is wrong, because I always used to look at it like something is wrong.
Yeah.
And then that creates more pain when you think something's wrong, and then you want to avoid that. So you move away.
Right.
Right. So it's such a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But I love what you said. And I love that you said that, because there isn't anything wrong. It's just all information.
Exactly.
It's just all information and opportunity to learn and grow.
Correct.
Moves you into abundance rather than victim.
Exactly.
So on that note,
there we go.
There it is. On that note, that is our wisdom for today. Our teaching for today. I know, me too. Mm-hmm. So cool to just come on impromptu.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do a quick video like this. So are you complete?
I am complete.
Okay, I'm complete as well. So thank you, everybody. If you liked this podcast, give us a thumbs up, and we would love if you subscribe.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.